Good morning. We will begin with a setup, half saddle, or kind of like a Virasana hero pose. And there's a few different ways to set this up for yourself depending on your needs. Excuse me, kitty. Yeah. So one of those ways is to do this like you're sitting upright in hero's pose, bending just one knee back at a time. And so the idea here is to work with the ancillary body parts, like getting the ankle kind of flat, top of the foot flat, shin down. See if you can get your sit bone inside of your foot. So instead of sitting on the heel, to inside of the foot, so both of your sit bones are on the mat, or you can sit on a block or a pillow or something if that kind of flexion on the knee is too much. Okay, so that was the option for Monday, and if you can handle both knees at a time, you can do that by just tucking the other knee back and sitting back, and then sit upright, right? Like you can sit upright, or you can lie back on maybe some pillows behind you, some blocks behind you, a stack of blankets. So for me, that feels like a lot on my knees to do both knees at the same time. I'm going to do one at a time, and I will time us so that if you want to join me one at a time, you will know when to switch sides. So take your time setting this up. Be sure that it works for you and your joints. Try not to force it. We'll take some time here to settle in, and then we will get flowing. This is Vinyasa. You have not entered the wrong class. But I do like to prep the body before, I like to prep the body with some sort of shapes before we get flowing. So right now, prepping quadricep, hip flexor. You do not have to be lying back on your back. You can be seated upright. I think I said that already, but I'd like to just stress that point. Wherever you are, seated or lying back, take some time to settle in, arrive. And start to breathe deep. If you like, you can close the eyes. So I find it helpful when closing the eyes to start to bring the awareness to the internal body. You could start with the physical body first, noticing how this shape feels, where you feel it. If you imagine the body like one of those Russian dolls that you keep opening and there's a smaller Russian doll inside of it, go one layer deeper. And there's a sense of the energetic body, the subtle body, associated with the feelings, the thoughts, noticing there how you feel. If you are doing one side at a time, like I am, we'll switch sides. Best way to do that if you're lying back is to sit up and lean your weight onto that opposite hip and switch out the feet. Be mindful if you are taking that second side, that the second side might feel a little different. It might need a different level of support. Coming back to this idea of the Russian dolls, the layers of the body. In the yoga tradition, we call these the koshas. And the kosha is a word that means sheath. You could think of it like a layer. Traveling deeper still, you tap into your sense of spirit, your sense of soul. What does that feel like? What does that look like? How does that arrive in your body? Take one more big breath here. When you're ready, start to slowly release out of the shape. Take your time. You can set your props off to a side. And then we'll come into a tabletop. Set your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. And from tabletop, just start to articulate the spine in any way you like. That can be cat and cow. That can be more like a barrel roll, circular shape. It can be kind of like you imagine you have a little tail and you're wagging your tail. Just start to explore the length of the spine. And as you do so, tap into your breath. If you happen to be choosing one particular pattern, be sure you change that pattern out if you need to go in the opposite direction. One more big breath in. And big breath out. We'll come into a child's pose with an option to create those reverse prayer hands. So I recommend taking the knees wide in this version of child's pose, crawling the arms forward. If you can, relax the forehead to the mat. And reach the fingertips a little bit more forward so you're really extending through your arms. If you can bring the palms of the hands together like you're in prayer. And then if you like, bend the elbows, take the thumbs to the back of the head. And once you get there, walk the elbows a little bit more forward. Start to breathe nice and deep into the ribs, into the lungs. And we'll be here for 3. For 2. Last full breath. And re-extend your arms forward if you have the elbows bent. Pulling yourself into tabletop, and from tabletop, come up to standing on your knees. And from standing on your knees, you can make fists with your hands. Bring your knuckles together behind you. Let your elbows kind of wing out to the sides. And it's like that you're pressing the pelvis forward, but see if you can maintain that a long lumbar spine. So imagine you could tuck your tailbone down and under, like you're pointing it towards the backs of your knees, and start to lift up through the chest. So you're creating a long spine. More than you are leaning back, you're creating a long spine. You might lift your head, you might lift your gaze. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Start to release out of this shape. Hips back to the heels, hands underneath the shoulders. And we'll start to make our way into our first downward facing dog. So you can curl those toes under, lift the hips up, and then start to adjust the hands and the feet for down dog. And you can add a little bit of fluidity here. You can bend the knees. You can add the head into that equation. Maybe you're kind of moving the head side to side. Start to feel the back body open. Without force, again, you're just kind of exploring the body. How does it feel today? Take a few moments here in down dog. Let the body wake up. Check in with the wrist and the shoulders. Check in with the hips and the ankles. When you're ready, start to find a little stillness in your down dog. Let your heels be heavy, the backs of the legs lengthen. You find a sense of pressing the floor away with your hands. Engage your 10 fingertips like they're gripping the mat. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Inhale, shift forward, find high plank. Pause in your high plank. And again, lengthen out through your spine. So reach the crown of the head forward, reach the heels back. Press down into your hands, lift your hips up and back again. We'll do that 3 times, breath to movement, inhaling, shifting forward, lengthen out. And then exhale, pressing the floor away, lift the hips up and back. Inhale, shifting forward. Exhale, shifting back. Do that once more on your own. Whenever you're ready on your inhale. And when you're ready on your exhale, downward facing dog. And pause in your downward facing dog. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Inhale, extend your right leg up and back. Remember, we're keeping neutral hips here, so we're pointing that right hip down at the floor. It does not matter how high that right leg gets. On your exhale, hug your right knee into your chest. Plant that right foot between the hands. Set your left knee to the mat. Rise on up to Anjaneyasana, reach through the arms. And then on your exhale, take your arms back behind you. Let your palms continue to face one another. And you might take that fist knuckles together at the low back, elbows wide, or you might interlace the hands to the webbing and extend the arms behind you. Whatever feels best and most accessible on the shoulders. Press down through the floor, reach the chest forward, deep breath in here. Deep breath out. Start to release your palms, plant the hands, top of the mat. Step back into downward facing dog. Settle back into down dog here. Big breath in. Big breath out. Inhale, left leg up and back. Not super high. Pay attention to the rotation of the hips. Try to keep them neutral. On your next exhale, pull that left knee into the chest. Transition foot between the hands and set your right knee to the mat. And briefly rise up to Anjaneyasana, reaching the fingertips towards the ceiling. And on your exhale, arms back behind you. Maybe you're making a fist with the knuckles at the low back, or maybe you're finding that interlace of the fingers to the webbing. Whatever you're doing, press the floor away with both feet. Lift up through the chest. Find a nice, tall, long spine. Press the heart forward. Big breath in. Big breath out. Start to release your hands, plant the palms, and step your way back to downward facing dog. Inhale. Exhale. Start to lift your heels up, bend your knees, take your gaze forward, step your way up to the top of your mat. Stack your ankles underneath your hips. Breathing in, walk your fingertips up your shins, lengthen the heart forward. So get light on your fingertips, find this sense of pressing down through your feet, use that core body to lengthen the spine. Exhale, refold. And as you fold, add a little bit of movement. You can bend the knees right and left. You can sway the upper body side to side, sway the hips. You can grab your opposite elbows if you like. Let your head be heavy here. Uttanasana, similar to downward facing dog this first round, just checking again in with the back body. How does it feel? Where do you feel sensation? I had a dream last night that I had to list 9 of my favorite yoga poses, and Uttanasana was the first one in my dream that I listed. Take one more breath here. Let's inhale and find that halfway lift once more. Fingertips to the shins, or maybe hands to the heart. So you're really using the core body, lifting the shoulders as high as the hips. As you exhale, refold. Press down through all 4 points of your feet. Inhale, stretch your arms forward, come all the way up to standing, grow tall. Exhale your hands to your heart. We'll start to add breath to movement. We're not moving fast, but we are finding a cadence, a rhythm, and a flow. Inhale, arms out wide, reach back up. Exhale, folding in. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, the hands are down at the mat as you step your right foot back. You can set your right knee down. Inhale, arms forward and up towards the ceiling, Anjaneyasana. Exhale, plant the palms. Step into downward facing dog. Full breath in. Full breath out. Inhale, right leg lift. Exhale, right knee into the chest. Plant the foot between the hands. Left knee to the mat. Anjaneyasana. Arms forward and up. Breathing in here. Breathing out. Palms come down. Top of the mat. You're stepping your left foot forward to meet the right. As you arrive there, inhale, halfway lift with integrity to the spine. Exhale, refold. Press down through your feet, stretch the arms forward, come all the way back up to standing. Exhale your hands to your heart. Inhale, arms wide, reach back up. Exhale, fold all the way in. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands down to the mat, stepping your left foot back. This time, crescent lunge, so we're going to keep that left leg engaged and active as the arms stretch forward and up. Crescent lunge, a little bend into your left knee. Deep breath in here. Deep breath out. Bring your hands down to the mat, stepping into downward facing dog. Pause in your down dog. Full breath in. Full breath out. Left leg, inhale, stretch that left leg up and back. Exhale, left knee into the chest. Plant the foot between the hands. Crescent lunge, so the right leg's going to stay active, right knee lifted, arms stretched forward and up. If you arrive into crescent lunge, a little bend into your right knee. Deep breath in here. Deep breath out. Now bring your hands down. You're framing out your left foot, stepping forward to the top of the mat, breathing in, halfway lift, maybe the hands to the heart. Ardha Uttanasana. Breathing out, forward fold, Uttanasana. Breathing in, press through the feet, stretch the arms forward, come all the way up to standing. Exhale your hands to your heart. Inhale, arms out wide, reach up. Exhale, fold in. Moving on, Surya Namaskar A, sun salutations. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, bend your knees enough to plant your palms and step into high plank. Pausing in your high plank, find that nice long spine, feel your thighs start to turn on. Press the floor away, slight round in the upper back. Deep breath in here. On your breath out, set your knees to the mat, come all the way to the belly. Set up for a first round of Shalabhasana Locust. Arms stretch back behind you. Palms face one another. You can keep your hands like this, or you can find that interlace of the fingers to the webbing. As you lift the heart, stretch the feet back, stretch the crown of the head forward. Just keep your gaze down at the floor. Deep breath in here. On your breath out, start to release, palms underneath the shoulders. Make your way all the way up to downward facing dog. Resettle, reset, down dog. Find your breath. Adding on to our Vinyasa. Inhale, extend your right leg up and back. Exhale, right knee into the chest. Plant the right foot between the hands, rising back up to crescent lunge. You were just here a few moments ago, so settle back into that familiar shape, crescent lunge. A little soft bend in the left knee. Deep breath in. And on your breath out, spin the sole of that left foot down to the mat. We're opening up to warrior two. If you need to adjust that right foot, go ahead. Nice deep bend in the right knee. Pause here, breathe. Keeping those warrior two legs as they are, reverse your warrior two arms. Option to take the bind of the left forearm at the low back. Left fingertips can wiggle into the right thigh crease as your right arm reaches high. Big breath in here. And on your breath out, release that. Windmill the hands down. Frame out that right foot. Step back into high plank. Option to move through Vinyasa here. If you'd like, if you're ready for Chaturanga, you could take that. If you prefer something more gentle, knees down into low cobra. Making your way all the way back to maybe child's pose if you want something more gentle today, or down dog. So with these transitions, with these flows in the middle of our sequences, feel free to customize your practice to your needs. You can think back on the layers, the koshas, the sheaths of the body. And if you were to take it a layer deeper, what would you desire? Okay, let's come into downward facing dog if you're not there already, and we'll do that second side. Inhaling left leg up and back. Exhaling left knee into the chest. Planting the foot between the hands. Stabilizing the feet, rising up to crescent lunge. Little soft bend into the right knee. Deep breath in here. Deep breath out here. Opening up into warrior two, arms out wide. Adjusting your left foot as you need. Really connect with the sole of the right foot. And the entire right leg is really strong. Deep breath in here. Keep those legs as they are, just reversing the arms, option to bind. Right forearm at the low back. Left arm reaching high. Big breath in. Big breath out. Start to unwind the arms back through warrior two briefly, and then hands back to the mat, framing that left foot out. Tipping your way into your high plank. Making a conscious choice to move through a Vinyasa flow or rest. Mindful transitions. Wherever you are, let's take 3 breath rounds together. Inhaling through the nose. Open mouth, exhale. Big breath in. Exhaling the tongue out. Inhaling. Exhale is horse breath, fluttering the lips. And then come back to Ujjayi, breathing in and out through the nose. Lift the heels, bend the knees, Take the gaze forward. Make your way up to the top of your mat. Once you're there, inhaling halfway lift, press the feet into the floor as you lengthen the spine to parallel. Exhale, fold back in. Press down through your feet, stretch your arms forward, come all the way to standing. Keep reaching the arms up, interlace the fingers to the webbing, and extend through the index fingers. And just like you've done before, tucking your tailbone down and under, lifting your front hip points up to create a nice long spine. Keep that. Press down through both feet, just reaching your body, your fingertips off to the right, so you're creating length and strength through that left side body. Breathe into those left ribs. Big breath in here. Breath out, come back up through center. Reset both feet. And exhale your way off to the left. So your left fingertips, or you're pointing your fingertips off to the left. You're pressing down through both feet. You're framing out your head with those biceps. Breathe into the right ribs. Inhale. And exhale, come back up through center. Inhale through center, grow tall. And exhale, fold all the way back in. Come down to Uttanasana, your forward fold. Inhale here, halfway lift. Exhale, bend the knees enough to plant the hands, stepping into high plank. And pause in your high plank. Find that nice long spine. Shift forward onto the tippy toes. You can choose to move through chaturanga, but we are coming all the way down onto the mat. So eventually meet me on the mat with your belly, your thighs, and then locust pose, Shalabhasana. Extend your arms back behind you, palms face one another. You can choose to interlace the fingers to the webbing or just reach through the fingertips. Deep breath in, lift the heart up, stretch the feet back. Stay here for your exhale. One more big breath in, see if you can lift the chest a little bit more away from the floor. And then on your exhale, release that, palms underneath the shoulders. Transitioning in your own time toward downward facing dog. A couple of deep breaths in downward facing dog. Reset. Just feel what it feels like to be in your body in this shape. Adding on to our vinyasa, inhale, right leg up and back. Shifting forward, right foot between the hands. Rising up to crescent lunge. Settling in, little soft bend in that left knee. Inhale here. Exhale, open up, warrior two. You stay with your warrior two legs, just reversing the arms, the option to bind the left forearm at the low back while you reach your right arm high. Deep breath in here. On your exhale, release those reversed arms. Now I'll give you the option to take your hands behind your back, interlacing the fingers to the webbing, or you can take the fists together at the low back and keep the elbows wide, whatever feels best. Okay, so while we have the spine behind the low back, we're gonna start to lean the torso forward, kind of nestle the right ribs towards that right thigh. Keep plugging into both of your feet as you let your head be heavy here. Keep those warrior two legs. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. One more inhale. As you're ready to exhale, release your hands. Plant them, framing your right foot out. stepping into high plank. And there's the option to move through Vinyasa. There's the option to rest. Once you've arrived back into downward facing dog, we'll move through that second side, same series of movements. Inhaling left leg up and back. Exhaling, shifting forward, left knee into the chest, planting the foot between the hands. Pressing through the feet, rising up to crescent lunge. Little bend in the right knee. Inhale here. Exhale, open up, warrior two. Stabilize those warrior two feet and just reverse the arms. You know your options, binding or not, doesn't matter. Big breath in. Breath out, release those arms. And then we'll set up for humble warrior with the hands behind the back, whether they're interlaced to the webbing or not. Start to lean the torso forward. Left ribs nestle against the inner left thigh as your head becomes heavy. Stay actively engaged with your right foot, your right thigh. Deep breath in here. On your breath out, release your hands, framing that left foot out, stepping into high plank. Another option to move through Vinyasa. Take your time with your transitions. When you're ready for downward facing dog, settle in there for a couple of breaths if you haven't already. From downward facing dog, lift the heels, bend the knees, taking the gaze forward, make your way up to the top of your mat. At the top of the mat, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Press down through your feet, stretch the arms forward and up. Keep reaching the arms up towards the ceiling, interlace your fingers to the webbing again. Extend the index fingers, tuck your tailbone under, press your hip points forward and up. This time just lean the chest forward. Maybe you take the gaze back a little bit. If it feels okay on the neck, you can actually lean the head back as you lift the heart up towards the ceiling. So those fingertips, the index fingers are pointing straight back behind you. Weight is shifting into the heels. Deep breath in here. And on your breath out, come back up. Fold all the way back in. Forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands. Stepping into high plank. From your high plank, pause and breathe in. Shift forward on the toes. Exhale, knees down or through chaturanga, but we're coming all the way to the floor for third round of Shalabhasana, locust. Arms stretch back, or you interlace the fingers to the webbing. As you lift the heart, stretch the toes back, lift the thighs. Deep breath in here. Stay for your exhale. One more breath in. And then exhale, release, palms underneath the shoulders, making your way to downward facing dog. From here, we're going to move through our Vinyasa flow sequence one last time with one option to add on. Inhaling right leg high. Keep those hips neutral. Exhaling, step the right foot forward between the hands. Rising up to crescent lunge. Settling here on your exhale. One breath in. Breath out, warrior two. Just like you've done before, settle into your warrior two legs, reverse your warrior two arms. Any way you like. Deep breath in. And release the arms. And then take the hands behind the low back. You know your options here. Keep that nice deep bend into the right knee as you shift the torso forward. Nestle the ribs into the inner right thigh. Keep the shoulders lifting away from the ears as you let your head relax here. Just breathe in for one. And breathe out. Now we'll release our hands. We're going to crawl the right fingertips forward beyond the upper right-hand corner of the mat. Left hand to the left hip as you drag that left foot forward. So you're shortening the stance. Coming into Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. These right fingertips underneath the right shoulder act like a little balance. Okay, so you can stay here. You can stretch that left arm up towards the ceiling. Option to add on Ardha Chandrasana Chapasana, bending the left knee. Maybe you reach back and catch a hold of the left ankle. Okay, so whether that bind is happening or not, doesn't matter. You're balancing on your right foot, press into the big toe mound. If you do have a hold of the foot though, kick the foot into the hand. Stay active through that left leg. Deep breath in. And on your breath out, start to re-extend the left leg. Really slow transition back through warrior two. Bend into your right knee. Soft, soft landing with the left foot on the mat. Warrior two. Deep breath in. Breath out, both hands come down, framing out that right foot. Stepping into high plank. Vinyasa or rest. Once you're in downward facing dog, take a few moments to settle and arrive there. Breathing in, breathing out. Making our transition off to the second side. Inhale, left leg, stretch it up and back. Keep the hips neutral. Exhaling, left knee into the chest, plant the foot. Rising up to crescent lunge. Exhale, settle into crescent. And inhale here. Exhaling, open up, warrior two. Adjust your feet, settle. Keep those legs as they are. Reverse the warrior two arms. Re-extend the arms, lift the torso upright, and then make your choice for your bind behind the low back with the hands or the knuckles together. Start to lean the torso forward, humble warrior two. Left ribs to inner left thigh as the head becomes heavy. Stay actively engaged with your right foot, your entire right leg. Big breath in. And on your breath out, we'll release the arms, right hand to the right hip, left fingertips reaching beyond the upper left-hand corner. Drag that right foot forward, shorten your stance, shifting the weight into the left leg as you float the right leg to about parallel. And then if you're losing balance here, be sure that your left fingertips are kind of underneath the left shoulder or maybe forward of it. You can work the balance in Ardha Chandrasana or Adhan Chapasana, bending the right knee, reaching back with the right hand. Maybe bind hand to ankle. Wherever you are, breathe. If you are binding hand to foot, kick the foot into the hand. One more full breath in, full breath out. If you have that bind with the hand to ankle, release it, re-extend the right leg. Super soft landing back through warrior two. We're bending that left knee, floating the right foot back to the back of the mat, keeping the left knee bent. Rise back up into warrior two. Just briefly inhale. Exhale, the hands come down. Option to move through one final vinyasa flow of your choosing if you like. If you are in downward facing dog, stay for a few moments. If you're in child's pose, meet us in downward facing dog. And from your down dog, shift forward into high plank. Set your knees to the mat, come all the way onto the belly. Walk the elbows forward like you're setting up for Sphinx. And just pause here for a few moments in Sphinx. So at the beginning of class, we started off with saddle, full or half, the belly facing the ceiling. And we'll do this shape again, but now our belly's facing the floor. And so this is bow pose, Dhanurasana, with the belly down. So I'll give you the same options to do it one side at a time, which is what I'm gonna do. Or if you're familiar with Dhanurasana, you can do it both ankles together. So if you're coming with me, come with me. So that right hand's gonna stay as it is. I'm gonna start by just bending my left knee back, reaching back with my left hand and catching a hold of the ankle, and then roll the chest and the hip back towards the mat. So I'm keeping neutral rotation. Just like we did before, kicking the foot into the hand lifts the chest away from the mat, but I'm not rolling onto my right hip. Okay, so breathe in here. Breathe out. One more breath in. And breath out. Start to release that left leg long behind you, left elbow underneath the shoulder. Rise back into Sphinx pose here for just a moment. Breathe in. Breathe out. Okay, so your left arm, your forearm, the elbow, it's like a stabilizer here as we switch sides, bending the right knee, reaching the right hand back. And when I do that, I do roll a little bit onto my left hip, but then once I've got my hand to my ankle, I roll the chest and the hip back to the floor, so I'm neutrally rotated. From there, start to kick the foot into the hand, lift the chest, deep breath in, deep breath out. One more inhale here. Nice and slow release on your exhale. Extend the right leg back behind you. Come back to Sphinx. From Sphinx, hands underneath the shoulders. Press up to hands and knees. Move your hips all the way back to child's pose. If you like, you can revisit that reverse prayer hand grip in child's pose, where the palms of the hands come together. You bend your elbows, rest the thumbs at the back of the neck, and then walk the elbows forward. 2 deep breaths, wherever you are in your child's pose. Extend your arms forward. Pull yourself up through tabletop. Walk up to your knees. And again, we kind of visited this pose at the beginning of class, camel pose, Ustrasana, except for I had you take your knuckles behind your back and just do a gentle back bend, which is something that I would invite you to do again if that felt good. Or we can move into Ustrasana by just, this is the way we're going to walk into it today, just taking your hands to your thighs and leaning your torso back, leaning your upper back back, pressing your hip points forward, and just see how far back you go. Not how far back you can go, but how far back you do go. Do you see the difference there? So leaning back, maybe you're staying here building strength, or maybe you're walking your hands back, hands to the ankles. And if you are taking that bind, this is when you start to really press the chest forward. Whatever you want to do with your head. I like to keep my head active and lifted. Some people prefer to let the head relax back onto the, like that bowl of the neck. For me, that feels terribly crunchy. So whatever you can do and breathe and swallow and maintain this. One more breath in. And see if you can come out the same way you came in. So hands to the thighs, pulling the heart forward and up. Take a seat back on the heels. Palms still on the thighs. Rest here in this upright seat. Relax your shoulders. Find your breath. Stay here and breathe for 2. For 1. Okay, so we will have an inversion practice. It will be shoulder stand in the same way. I'd like you to set up as we've been practicing these past few weeks with blankets, with support for the shoulders so that we do keep the natural curve of the cervical spine. So if you don't have blankets, take a moment to go grab them or grab some towels. Towels or blankets both work. I want you to have a stack that's going to be about the thickness. It's probably about 1 inch or 2 thick. And you're going to place that about 3/4 to the top of the mat. Ernie's saying goodbye, bye. If you're familiar with this shoulder stand setup and you don't need me to walk you through it, feel free to head into shoulder stand. But if you're coming with me, so I have this mat above my blanket. I'm going to fold it over the top of my blanket. So my head's going to go here on the floor. My shoulders are going to go here on the sticky mat that's elevated on my blanket. I'm also going to have a prop. So I have pillows and blocks. You can choose whichever one off to the side before we head into shoulder stand. So first, this is how I set this up. I come down to my shoulders. I make sure my shoulders are fully supported by the lift of my mat and blanket, and my head's on the surface of the floor so that my neck can move freely when I come upside down. From here, my knees are bent, my feet are planted. I'm going to slide one of my props underneath my sacrum to give my pelvis a little lift. So it's like I'm in a supported bridge pose. Now I'll take my elbows alongside my ribs, palms face one another, and lift the feet up towards the ceiling, making like these little robot arms. So I'm going to actively press my triceps, my elbows into the mat while I extend my feet up towards the ceiling. And you could call this shoulder stand. You can stay right here. This is a great place to work. So you want to move on, palms down to the floor, arms are extended. Your hands are like this little lever that you're going to press down through your hands as you lift the feet up and overhead, coming first into plow pose. And you can kind of assess here in plow pose whether or not the feet touch the floor overhead or not, doesn't matter. But you can assess the breath. You can tell that I'm breathing. I'm able to continue to talk. I'm not choking my airway. And this is why we use the blanket and the folded mat underneath the shoulders. Okay. So from plow pose, you can stay there. You can move back to that first supported shoulder stand, or you can take the hands to the low back, fingertips point up towards the ceiling. You're creating this little shelf with your triceps and your elbows as you start to extend the legs up towards the ceiling. You're lengthening out through the body. The majority of the weight is in the arms, minimal weight in the head. And stay active through the feet. You can kind of imagine like a little ballerina foot, pressing the bottom end of the foot up towards the ceiling. Wherever you are, take a few minutes to arrive into your current shape. Assess the breath. Can you swallow? Can you breathe easily? And take about 3 more slow, deep breaths. So from your current shape, you're going to back out the same way you got in. If you're in shoulder stand, you're going to come back through plow, feet overhead. And if you're in plow, then you're going to start to straighten out through your arms, use those hands like a brake as you lower the sacrum back down onto the support of your prop. So maybe it's the blocks or the pillows. And you could pause there for a few moments, or you can bend the knees and let the feet rest. I think it feels really nice to just rest here for a few moments. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel the weight of the sacrum on the lift of your prop. 2 more breaths here. Okay, if you still have that prop underneath the sacrum, we'll slide it out of the way, coming all the way down to the mat. Take your time, roll off to a side, and press into your hands. We'll briefly come up so that we can just undo that shoulder stand setup. So unfold the mat, move the blankets out of the way, and then you can come back to your back. Knees bent, feet planted. Pausing here, feel what it feels like to have the head, the shoulders, the hips, and the feet in one plane. They're all resting on the same surface. And so hugging your knees into your chest now, Apanasana, rocking a little bit side to side. You can turn this into happy baby, reaching up for the backs of the legs or the feet, pulling the knees wide, and you can continue to add movement. You continue to rock if you like. Maybe you try extending one leg out and then the other. Bring that close again, hug the knees back into the chest. And keep the knees hugging into the chest, but just extend the arms out wide to the sides. Start to move your knees off to the left so that your right hip is stacking on top. A simple twist. Letting both shoulders be heavy and soft. If it's challenging to let your legs relax off to the left while still maintaining that right shoulder on the mat, add some height underneath your left outer knee and legs. And you could even do this, slide some blankets underneath the knees or even in between the legs. Whether you think you need it or not, sometimes it just feels good to add a little extra support. So I recommend just starting out with a gaze towards the ceiling, a neutral neck. And if it feels okay on the spine, you can turn your gaze away from the knees towards the right. If that's too crunchy on the neck or the shoulder, you can keep that neck neutral. Maybe you're closing the eyes or starting to soften the gaze. I'll take 3 deep breaths here. On your next inhale, start to pull the knees back up into the chest. You can give yourself a hug. And then release the arms. Again, but keep the knees hugging into the chest. Start to move the knees off to the right. Letting that left knee, left hip stack on top. If you need those props here on that second side, go ahead, prop yourself appropriately. Find a comfortable position for the head. And soften into the breath. And let your body be heavy here. And stay with this for 3. For 2. Last full deep breath. When you're ready to unwind the spine, start to make your way back through center. If there's any last movement or shape you're desiring, feel free to take it. If there's any particular Shavasana setup you'd like, you can take your time to set that up. I'm going to give you about a minute to find your transition. And if you prefer a seated upright meditation, feel free to take that as well. As you arrive into your Shavasana, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. A slight tuck of the chin into the chest. A big breath in through the nose. And open mouth exhalation. And take about 5 minutes here today. Relax your jaw, back teeth, your tongue. Let the eyes feel heavy in their sockets. Relax all the muscles of the face. Whatever part of your body that is in contact with the floor, feel it heavy. The weight of the bones, muscles, skin. Everything releasing into the gravity's pull. We are each a mountain for the other to climb, and often our path to love is interrupted by a mishap or a problem or something unexpected that needs attending. We tend to call these unexpected things in life obstacles. Often the thing in the way comes from another person. A stubbornness falls like a tree blocking where we want to go, or a sadness comes like a flash flood to muddy the road between us, or just as we go to rest in the clearing we have prepared, we are bitten by something hidden in the undergrowth. Thus, in daily ways, we have this constant choice to see each other as the stubborn, muddy, biting thing that blocks our way, or to back up and take in the whole person as we would a mountain in its entirety, dizzy when looking up into its majesty. When we are blocked in our closeness with another, we have this constant opportunity to raise our eyes and behold each other completely, then to kneel and lift the fallen tree, or cross the flooded path, or pluck and toss the biting thing. We have the chance to keep climbing, so we might cup the water that runs from each other, so we might quench our thirst as from a mountain stream, knowing that love, like water, comes softly through the hardest places. That's Mark Nepo, the Book of Awakening. Begin to bring your awareness back into the body, back into the breath. Gentle movement through fingertips and toes. Moving the head side to side. On an inhale breath, stretching the arms up and overhead. And if you are on your back, on your exhale, rolling off to a side, finding fetal position for a moment. Continue pressing into your hands, rising up to a comfortable upright seat. Take a moment here to grow tall through the spine. And settle into your seat, acknowledge how you feel. And that deeper layer, that undersheath, that connection to your spirit and your soul. Joining the hands together at the heart, bowing the chin to the chest, honoring your effort and your practice. To all of our teachers, past, present, future, to the teacher within your own heart. Namaste.